So the Biden administration has finally said something about American citizen Aishanur Ezga being shot and killed by the IDF in the West Bank. Antony Blinken finally came out and made a statement. This is an American citizen who was peacefully protesting in the West Bank. So the West Bank is not near Gaza. This is not run by Hamas. This is on the other side of Israel. It's actually on the east side of Israel, right next to Jordan, but it's called the West Bank because it's west of the Jordan. I'm not 100% exactly sure, but I know there's anyways, the west side of that bank. But it's on the eastern side of Israel. She was over there peacefully protesting. She was actually involved with the same organization. She was over there with the same organization that Rachel Corrie, who was crushed to death by the IDF as she was trying to protect a Palestinian home from being bulldozed. Aishanur and Rachel Corrie were a part of the same peace movement. And now Aishanur's been shot in the head. The IDF has come out saying, oh, we did an investigation. It was an accident. Oops, we were targeting others who were hostile and violent. And Aishanur just got hit. And that's just what happens. First of all, why is the IDF, why are Israelis at all in the West Bank? That is Palestinian territory. But these settlers, these terrorists have gone into the West Bank. They've taken land, and the IDF protects them. And the only reason why the IDF is there is to protect those settlers. I'm sorry, but if you're breaking the law, if you're going somewhere where you don't belong and you're stealing land and you're breaking the law, it should be condemned that your government sends in an official police force to protect you while you're breaking, entering, and stealing land. But nonetheless, that's what the IDF is doing. They're over there protecting these radical settler thieves, terrorists, and Aishanur ended up getting shot in the head. Here is what Antony Blinken finally had to say about this incident. I don't even want to use the word incident.
Her killing was both unprovoked and unjustified. No one should be shot and killed for attending a protest. No one should have to put their life at risk just for freely expressing their views. In our judgment, Israeli security forces need to make some fundamental changes in the way that they operate in the West Bank, including changes to their rules of engagement.
I mean, nothing is going to change. Here's John Mersheimer saying exactly that. This is all just lip service. The U.S. government say, well, they've got to make change. We need to hold them accountable. We can't just say, you need to make some changes because you're killing our people. Shouldn't it be a bit more like, we're not going to give you the weapons to kill our people? Shouldn't that be the answer to that? But here's John Mersheimer talking about this incident and how the Israelis are able to get away with murder. They're able to get away with murder.
If I went to the Middle East and visited Israel and I was killed, somebody shot me there, do you think there'd be any accountability? Seriously. If any of you went to the Middle East and were killed, do you think there'd be accountability? There wouldn't be. This is how outrageous this situation is. Just think about the Liberty. Think about Rachel Corrie. Think about this Turkish American who was just killed in the flotilla. There's no accountability. Israelis can do almost anything and get away with it. So the idea that opacity matters, I don't think so. The lobby basically believes it can finesse any issue. They've never seen an issue that they can't finesse.
And it doesn't even really seem to be about finessing the issue. They're not saying flowery language really to cover up the fact that their military force killed an American citizen and a peaceful protester in the West Bank, not even in Gaza. They're not even using flowery language to cover that up. They're just saying, yeah, it was an accident. I mean, that's all they have to say is, whoops, our bad. Anyway, don't worry about that. Let's just move forward. Keep giving us weapons. There is something very rotten here. We really need to be investigating the level that the influence of Israel has on our politicians to get them to turn a complete blind eye and just give lip service of, we'll look into it. The Israelis looked into it. They did their own investigation. Well, their investigation concluded that it was an accident. So we're just going to have a stern talking to them. We should be doing a lot more than a stern talking. When they're crushing peaceful protesters and they're shooting them point blank in the head And those are the Americans they're killing. Then there's, of course, all of the Palestinians and the aid workers, the UN workers that they have massacred in Gaza during this conflict. This is beyond needing a stern talking to. This is a stain on the American reputation around the world. We are supporting this. We are a laughingstock. This is literally, gosh, I don't want to use, because this is on YouTube, I don't want to use a really crass term, but we're being mocked around the world. I mean, so I'll let you come up with whatever crass analogy you want to come up with in your mind. But we are clearly being made fun of around the world. They're looking at us, they're watching us being just really shoved around by Israel, that they can literally abuse us and do whatever they want to us. And we just have to take it. We just have to smile and take it and say, well, try to do better. It's like we've got battered wife syndrome, essentially, at this point. That's a good kind of mellower way to frame this than what I was going to say. I'll let you run away with that with your imagination. But we're like a battered wife at this point, where they're abusing us, they're beating us up, and then we get the courage to maybe say a little something, a tiny little something like, hey, you're abusing me. And then they say, oh, no, I wasn't. It's fine. You're fine. And then we say, oh, okay, you're right. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And then we just get abused again and again and again. And so the rest of the world is looking at this and they're wondering, I mean, how do you think this makes America look? Those of you who are super pro-Israel, hawkish on every other foreign policy aspect for the United States, how do you reconcile this? Because if your whole thing is, we've got to show, and I hear this all the time, Trump is going to come back into office and he's going to bring back American strength, right? We're weak on the world stage and these other countries are thinking they could do all of these XYZ things because we've had Biden and he's weak and now we need Trump back and he's strong. But Trump is he's deeper in the Israeli pocket than even Biden and Harris. Trump did more for Israel than any other U.S. president. That is a fact. He moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He allowed them to take areas of land, to annex areas of land in Syria. The rumors are, the reporting, I should say, is that because he's in with Adelson's, they're pushing for him to allow Israel to annex the West Bank entirely, in which case they've already said they will not give the Palestinians in the West Bank full citizenship rights like they did. You know, they've got the 2 million Arabs that they talk about in Israel, the 2 million Palestinians who they did give citizenship to. And they're always pointing at them like, hey, look, we're not just a Jewish nation. We do have 2 million Arabs, so back off of us. And those 2 million Arabs do have full Israeli citizenship. They do not have, however, full Israeli Jewish rights. That is a fact. They're not allowed to marry whoever they want and bring them into the country. Jewish Israelis are. They could marry a Jewish girl. And in fact, I'm not certain they might be able to marry anybody. I don't even know if the woman needs it, or person, I should say, because it's a man or a woman. I don't know if they even need to be Jewish, but they certainly can come and live with their Jewish Israeli citizen. But an Arab Israeli citizen is not allowed to marry another Arab from, let's say, the West Bank or anywhere else in the Middle East and bring them to live in Israel. So they're not allowed the same community rights, the same self-determination rights. Arab Israelis are not given that. They are given the same individual rights, but just as a human being, as an individual, but not really when you start talking and looking at the marriage issues and all these other issues. So they pride themselves by showing us this 2 million, but then they've got an entire other group inside of Jerusalem that are technically residing inside of Israel-occupied land, and they call them Jerusalemites. And they're not given Israeli citizenship. They're instead given green cards. They're like permanent residents in their own country that they've been born and raised in, that their generations, hundreds and thousands of years of generations have lived there, and yet they're given green cards like permanent residents. And what Israel has said is that if they go in and annex the West Bank, They don't have any intention of turning all of those Palestinians who would be directly under the control into citizens. They instead would keep them as an occupied people. They would maybe get something similar, but it wouldn't be the same as the Jerusalemites who are given the green cards within their own country. Jerusalemites are actually allowed freedom of movement. They're able to go to Tel Aviv. They're able to go anywhere in Israel and also anywhere in the West Bank because they're Palestinian. But the Palestinians in the West Bank would not be given that same privilege. They would just be green card holders under the administration of the Israelis, but they would not be allowed any more freedoms than they're allowed today. They wouldn't. Nothing would change for them, and yet they'd be under direct Israeli control. I don't know exactly how Israel could justify that or get away with that, but of course they do because America just sits down and lays down and takes it, right? So how do you reconcile this? How do you reconcile this perception of strength when we are being humiliated on a regular basis by Israel? We're being humiliated on the world stage. There's nothing more humiliating than this. They can kill our own citizens and we just shake it off. I mean, so that is something to think about. That's something to process. How is, when we're thinking about our foreign policy and our stance and the image that we want to purport around the world as Americans, is this helping what's going on with Israel? No, I don't think it is helping at all. This is just unbelievably tragic. They did hold a funeral for Aisha in Palestine. There was a funeral for Aisha Ezga Egi in the West Bank. They did wrap her body and carry it with honor, and they all gave her a ton of respect, and they really appreciated that an American citizen would go there and literally give her life for their cause of self-determination, independence, freedoms, for them to be able to live like dignified human beings. They gave Aisha Ezga Egi a really beautiful send-off. I don't know what's going to happen with her body. I'm not sure if her parents are there, flying, if her family's flying her body back to the United States, or what is. I mean, I would hope that the American government would pick up the tab for that and get her body back here. If you're going to excuse the Israelis killing her, I think it's your responsibility to then at least bring her body back and pay for her parents' expenses. She was not engaging in conflict. She was not engaging in any violence. She was there just protesting. And, our greatest ally shot her in the head. It's absolutely terrible and absolutely terrifying.